Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Brews and Belters podcast, where we discuss all things soccer while sipping on a few of our favorite local brews. This is episode number 9. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit of matches that we watched this past weekend before we get into some Serie A end of the season notes. Although there are 13 matches left, just kind of some predictions on how we see the end of the season shaping up, similar to how we did with the Premier League last week. Tonight, I am sipping on actually an American Amber Lager from Sendik's, which is my local grocery store. I didn't know until this past week that they've also got their own brews. So fun little fact there. That's what I'm sipping on tonight. We have no Jack. It's just me and Tobes. So with me, as always, is the legend.
Toby Henefeld, everyone. How's it going? Just like Jack, kind of forgetting about the podcast tonight. I did as well. Forgot to go get beer. So I'm sipping on what I already had in the fridge, which is Revolution Brewing, a little crazy Belgian-style pale ale. I think this is what I had a week or two ago. I've kind of been on a Belgian pale ale and a Belgian IPA kick recently. It's pretty good. So no Jack tonight. Kind of stinks. Sponsorship cut him short, so hopefully he's back next week. We'll have to see. Which this would have been the golden week, dude. This is like Jack's week to shine. He's probably still on a 4-day bender. Like we're capping it off. Did he at least work this week? Have you seen him?
I can confirm he has been in the office. He came up, gave me a little playful nudge on Monday, asked how I was doing, asked how I was holding up. So yeah, I can confirm he is working. I cannot confirm that he's sober. So he may just be riding it out, a little 4-day bender. So who knows?
All right.
Yeah, we can get right into it, I guess. Before we do, just some administrative news. Episode number 9 here. The website is actually, kind of got a little structure to it now. We're kind of moving on to just filling it with content right now before we roll it out live. We're working on just a couple fun little graphics and write-ups about kind of our favorite combinations for like a starting 11 for the different leagues across Europe, Premier League, Serie A, Bundesliga, the leagues that we've really been tuning into, whether those are under 23 squads or just our favorite and most saucy Premier League squads. We're working on a couple different things, and that will be under the umbrella of the Underground Chauffeur, which will be the website. So we'll be back with an update next week with that. Hopefully have some more written content for you guys besides just the podcast. But for now, follow along with our social medias, Twitter, Instagram, at Brews and Belters, and then obviously here on YouTube, Brews and Belters. Give us a like and a subscribe, if you will. Spread the word as we continue to kind of grow our content and ease into everything. But for now, let's talk about this past week. Toby, what matches stood out to you? What do you want to talk about?
Let's just dive right into it, Keegan. Liverpool-Everton, the Saturday game. Jack actually made the trip south to Mecca, and we met up for actually, I was a little late. We were supposed to – kickoff was 11:30. He was there at, I think a quarter to 11. He was there early. Drinking pints of Guinness, best pour in town, by the way, in Peoria. Pint of Guinness from the Fox Pub in Peoria. So met up with him. Pulled the old. I don't know how they stream these. There's 3 or 4 TVs at this bar we were at, and they all are on a 3-second delay. And there was a Liverpool table of fans. Randomly, some sad bloke sitting behind Jack was the only Everton fan in the bar, besides Jack, of course. Family right to the left of us. So mom, dad, 2 kids, whatever. Young, 7, 6, whatever. Didn't find out till about 2 minutes in that they had not switched over from NBC Sports to NBC, so we missed the Richarlison goal, which kicked off everything. right as it happened, Jack decided to throw the no fucking way right in front of the family and everything else. So my own
Love it.
establishment, like I'm on a first name basis with almost everyone there, and it's a family bar at the end of the day, more of a pub than a bar. And yeah, so Jack decided to drop some F bombs, get into it. But yeah, dude, the atmosphere of that place was pretty fun. Um, Ended up being a 0-2 Everton win, first time in 10 years that they've beat Liverpool at all in all competitions, and the first time since 1999, since Will Smith was doing his Y2K album, have we seen him go into Anfield and win. So yeah, huge. Uh, all in all, it was a good game. It wasn't anything special. I mean, it was the Merseyside Derby, so it was exciting as is. Um, but yeah, that's kind of how it was for you. How was it for you, Keegs? Where were you watching it at?
Yeah, I tuned in from the Red Lion here in Milwaukee. Great bar, Spurs bar actually. If you make the trip up anytime soon, we'll have to check it out. Yeah, despite the fact that it's a Spurs bar, I've tuned in for a few match days there. Really cool downstairs bar, upstairs bar. Anyway, the match itself, watched with a few coworkers. Yeah, like you said, it's the Merseyside Derby, but it's a Merseyside Derby with no fan. Just didn't quite feel the same, and the result wasn't what it normally is, which for me, of course, was disappointing. I just thought from a match standpoint, really a lack of creativity from Liverpool, but a lack of inspiration too. Just especially with Henderson going out early, they just really didn't have that bulldog in their team. They didn't have that step on your throat killer instinct, and Everton, good for Everton. I joke with people like kind of feels like the big brother little brother thing, where it's like, yeah, it sucks, but we've got a couple trophies the last couple of years. I'm kind of okay with Everton having a nice little season and having them get a little win. I mean, it hurts,
Yeah.
but I'm happy to see it too. And I've said to Jack multiple times, like it's fun. It's fun seeing Everton play well. It's fun seeing them kind of make like I don't want to say an unexpected run, but sort of an unexpected run, and it just makes the league more fun. And being a fan of the sport, it's no, it's just been fun, painful
So
but fun.
um, with Henderson, do you know anything exact on timeline? Because I mean, he was kind of the makeshift center back, and I mean, he's that good of a player that I think you could stick him on 4 or 5 different positions on the pitch, and he could be a average to above average player. And I think that's kind of what he was. Like, of course, he doesn't want to fucking play defense. Like, who does? Like, when it comes down to it, like when you're not a defender, but that's what he was doing. And do you have like a timeline by chance?
I don't have a timeline. Sorry, my dog's chewing on a bone in the background. If you're hearing some crashes on the floor, I don't have a timeline. It's still a little bit of a mystery, but I mean, there've been the articles that have popped out like Henderson injury could define Liverpool season. Like as far as Premier League goes, we'll be. I mean, like we've got an uphill battle to get a top 4 spot. And really, to me, like the focus is completely centered around Champions League right now. So I can see it affecting us in Champions League. But as far as like Liverpool season could be defined by this moment, like our season was already trending downhill. We've already had injury issues. We've already had, lineup issues. So I don't know. I'll be interested to see. I'm hesitant to believe some of the English headlines, just because the English media tends to blow soccer things out of the water and be a little bit
Yeah.
sensational. So we'll see.
Speaking of the English media, before the game, I want to say it was like 20 minutes before, Klopp was like, well, he was talking about in an interview, the person that was interviewing him was talking about DCL, Dominic Calvin-Lewin, and then was also talking about Richarlison, Alan, and a few other players like that. And the guy's like, well, we just got the sheet and it looks like DCL isn't starting, Alon isn't starting, and one other guy isn't starting. And Klopp was caught off guard by it to the point where he's just like, that Fox, like calling the Everton coach, like just calling the manager out. Like it was like, you're expecting one thing, and then he throws like 4 new guys on the field. You're like, well, shit, what do I do? But he's just like, all right, whatever. And it was
Yeah,
just kind of funny because you could tell those guys really respect each other as managers. I think a lot of guys, Angelotti, I think is Everton's manager's name. I think most of the people in football, all in general, but especially in the Premier League, I think everyone really respects him as a manager.
for sure.
Um,
Yeah,
so that was kind of cool. And then just kind of looking at the table, you kind of said that it's good when Everton isn't necessarily looked as the younger brother to Liverpool. I mean, City's. I think this is City's season. Like they got it in the bag. So let's just look at 2 through 6 right now, or 2 through 7, let's say. United's at 49 points, Leicester City's at 49, West Ham's at 45, Chelsea at 43, Liverpool and Everton both tied at 40. If you told me right now, Man United or Leicester, one of those two is getting 2. But I do think I don't think it's going to be Leicester City, but I do think United might kind of start wetting the bed, and they're going to be fighting for that 4th position. I think Chelsea
yeah,
plays United this weekend. So that's a huge, 3-point swing right there for either team. So, I mean, it's going to be a pretty exciting next couple of weeks because I'm just going to jump right into this is a third game I wanted to talk about, but let's go right into it. West Ham, number 4 right now. They played Tottenham. That was one of 2 Tottenham games I watched throughout the week. And West Ham beat them 2-1. There's a lot of shit going on in Tottenham right now. But West Ham's playing well. Like, their striker, Antonio, is really good. And then who would have thought Jesse Lingard is like a spark plug for them. And good for him, man. I really like him. I've always been a huge Jesse Lingard fan and a huge Dele Alli fan just because I'm kind of a sucker for the forwards and midfielders of England. And he's been so bad for so long because he never got the opportunities. And like at that position, when you're creative and you have terrible confidence, like it's going to affect your game as a whole. And he's finally back on the page and he's just birding. And like, not only is he looking really good, but like he kind of has like that knack right now where he's in the right place at the right time and the ball is like finding him on passes. And then he's getting super lucky. Like his goal for Tottenham was a trash defense goal, but the ball found him and he like squirted by 3 guys at the same time. And like it was a great goal, great finish on the right side of the post. But it was like just terrible defense. But it's like Jesse Lingard of 2 years ago wouldn't have had that play. Like
right.
that wouldn't have been a Jesse Lingard Manchester United play. But with West Ham, he's revitalized himself and damn good for him. Like totally
Yeah.
enjoy.
I think it's a good point too, though, and if you haven't played the game or tuned into the game that much, or really any sport, and I think it goes beyond sport, but just when you
We're
get
just
that
talking
kind of that,
sports right now, guys.
I'm gonna get really, I'm gonna get really philosophical here, but there is that sort of like Jesse Lingard has hit that refresh button on his career, and it's just funny how things happen like that, where a player hits the refresh button like that, and they come back and they kind of take that deep breath and they take that look at themselves. And one, he's playing better, he's more confident, he's happier. It is a rebirth for him. But two, think opportunities are just falling to him like that too. And it's just interesting to see that kind of stuff happen where like a player's patience and a patient's, trust kind of in the process gets rewarded. One, yeah, he's playing well, he's playing hard. But two, like, you kind of get those gifts and those winks from the soccer gods, and a ball falls right to you and happens to make it past 3 defenders, which is fun to see. I mean, it's like what's happening right now is just with Lingard and with West Ham as a club is like what makes the Premier League and the game like magical and so enjoyable. So
Yeah. No,
great.
definitely. I'll bring that back up again because there's another person that's playing like that right now. So we just cut the West Ham part of the Tottenham West Ham game. Moving back from that, Tottenham played midweek Europa League against Wolfsberger, Austrian team in the Europa League. They were especially good last year. I want to say they're fifth or sixth in the division this year, which that's not a good league, or it's not a great league.
Right.
They usually have 2 to 4 teams that are okay and 1 to 2 teams that are really good, with Salzburg and Antwerp. Usually, I want to say is the second team. So yeah, so there's a lot going on with that, and Spurs went out and they started Gareth Bale, Dele Alli, Heung-min Son, and I want to say they put Lucas and Coco. So they had like they kind of played like 5 up front, and they only played 3 on defense, and they took it to them and they beat them 4-1. It was never really in doubt. Dele Alli looked awesome. Gareth Bale looked really good. 2 guys that like I want those 2 to like be good together, and then I want them to be good with Kane and Son, where they can kind of mix match, and then have Lucas Moura and Eric Lamela, Coco, come in off the bench and kind of give that like 20 to 30-minute spark plug. But that's not how it's been. So yeah, so that whole thing happened. And then fast forward, so they got the 4-1 victory. Fast forward to them over the weekend on Sunday morning, and they lose. They drop points, and both of those guys who were just talking about, Bale and Dele, were both on the bench and came in to finish up the game. And Gareth Bale, when he came in, like instant impact. Like he's kind of been finding his way, but he's been pretty good. Like he's lost a step. You could tell he's not as fast as he used to be. But he's definitely still has that talent. And like his goal against Wolfsberger, like he was cutting down in between like the 6-yard box and the 18, and was getting this ball and like did like this step over switchback and like perfectly deked the defender, and like then it was just one-on-one on the goalie, and he just like smoked it, roofed it on the goalie, and a great goal. And then he had the one, so it was 2-0 against West Ham, and then he had the corner kick, and it was a beautiful corner kick with enough bend that it was just went right off Lucas Moura's head right into the goal, and that was their one goal. He had a really awesome kind of scissor type kick right outside the 18 that hit the post, and then he also set up a few other things too. He was the only creative kind of aggressive player that they had, and it just goes to show like, you brought this guy in, and yeah, some of it might have been marketing purposes, but and to sell jerseys with COVID and everything, you kind of have to find ways to earn money. But he's still a class player, and I don't think Jose trusts him and doesn't want to use him. Don't know why. I don't really care why, but when he's on the pitch, for the most part, over the last week or two, they've been a better team. Maybe I'm not going to say 3-4 weeks ago. Okay, so what? But as of right now, he's better for them on the pitch. And yeah, so I don't know if you watched the game, but if you have any other input, the only other thing I want to say is that I think Jose's time's done. I do. He just keeps dropping points, and it is what it is. Julian Nagelsmann from RB Leipzig, I think it was maybe Sky Sports, and then definitely the Telegraph, and then some German newspaper that's like one of their better sources of information, was saying that like Tottenham's pretty much offered him the position, but he does not want to leave till the end of the season because they're still technically in the Champions League.
Right.
But and they're number 2 in the Bundesliga right now. I want to say they're just I wrote it down, 2 points back of first place. So I think he wants to see this season out till the end. But if they were to lose in the Champions League, maybe he would be, whatever, like, okay, I'll give it a go and like leave. But I really don't think there's any reason for him to take over Tottenham mid-season, like unless they're struggling with something with the Europa League, because the chances of winning the Europa are not very high. and that would be an automatic bid in the Champions League. So other than that, like there's really no reason for him to take over, in my opinion. I think they just kind of ride the ship out till the end of the season and then go from there about addressing the new manager, which we kind of talked about last week. But I mean, it just bears to show like there wasn't just smoke last week. Like there's more than that, and I think it is going to happen. I don't think Jose is going to be here much longer, and like I just don't. I don't think he has some of his players are like on his side, but those players who are on his side are like the players that I'm like, dude, if this was another coach, you might not even be on the team. Like you aren't that good of a player, but you do exactly what he wants you to do. But on any other system, that what he's wanting you to do is not needed. Like we don't need a guy to, just pretty much play a left back but not go up. Like we don't need that. Like we need more aggressiveness. And yeah, so that was Spurs West Ham, Spurs Wolfsburger. Moving in,
Couple
go ahead.
couple things before you move on. I do think it'll be interesting to see what they do with Jose because, like you said, they're playing for one trophy, and that's Europa right now, and that's about it. That's about all they're playing for. And with Nagelsmann being in his position, I think it will be interesting to see if they just ride out the storm. And while doing that, give Jose an opportunity to this is your last chance. This is your opportunity to prove your worth. Like go win Europa. So I think it'll be interesting to see what they do there too. And two, Gareth Bale. I think it's interesting to see, and I don't know what goes on in Jose's mind, good, bad, and ugly. I don't understand the guy. Um, I don't understand his genius or his questionable moments. But I do think it's kind of interesting to watch him try and navigate how much to play Bale. When Bale first joined, he was like not playing at all. Now he's kind of getting those spurts where he'll come in off the bench or whatever. It's just kind of interesting to see him fit in a player like Gareth Bale, who's a club legend, a huge presence, obviously, in European football, but obviously out of his prime. It's just
Mhm.
really interesting to see those two both navigate Jose from a managerial standpoint and Bale from a player standpoint, kind of navigating like their game. Because, like you said, that class is permanent. But, he's lost a step, so he has to alter his game. He has to play a little bit different. Um, so it's interesting to see him do that while simultaneously Jose is trying to figure out where to slot him in and how to use him.
Yeah.
It's just I don't have any answers for the correct way to do that. I just think it's an interesting thing to watch as a fan, um, to kind of see those two sort of navigate each other. And it'll be even more interesting if Nagelsmann comes in, how he uses Bale and so on. But
Mhm.
moving forward, what were you wanting to touch on next?
So to kind of wrap up my Premier League watch party, was Southampton Chelsea, 1-1 draw. You were talking earlier about how it's enjoyable to watch Jesse Lingard kind of like have the reins taken, and like kind of be able to enjoy himself on the pitch, and that's exactly how Minamino,
Yeah,
uh, Liverpool's loan for Southampton's been for them. Like he's been I would say he's been their best player the last couple games, and for some reason I don't know why, but I find myself liking watching Southampton play. They haven't been winning like any of the games they've been playing recently. I want to say they've dropped like points in last 6 games. They've been tying or winning or tying or losing. Danny Ings has been playing okay, and then James Ward-Prowse, and they have a few other good players. But Minamino's definitely been their most, I guess I should say, exotic player. Like he's been the one to give assists, goals. His goal against Mendy, Chelsea's goalie, was awesome. Like he deked him out and like deked the defender. And like if you'd been watching that game, like it was all Chelsea up until that point. And like that's all it took was just one moment. And like, oh shit, we're down 1-0. Like, yeah,
yeah,
it was awesome. Were you able to see that goal?
I was, and yeah, it is great to see him kind of like again. It's an exhale. It's a like the pressure's off. Like I'm just gonna go back to playing the game. Like I'm not
Hmm.
battling for a spot in arguably the best front three in the world right now. Like I'm not, like this isn't a tryout. Like this team wants me. They want me to come in and be a weapon. Like I can just go out and play my game. It's
And
really
not press.
what
Not worry about having to press all the time, like more relaxed, I guess.
let me just attack. Yeah. Um and with that, just a note on Southampton in general. Yeah, they in their last 5 matches, they've lost four, and they're sitting. I had to look at the table. They're sitting in 14th right now, and in my opinion, with the exception of like, Liverpool, which again, that's a kind of a different topic because of injuries and whatnot. But like Southampton to me is one of the biggest letdowns of the season so far.
Oh yeah.
Just a month or two ago, we were talking about them being top six, maybe even higher. Um,
Mhm.
and they've got a good squad. And truly, I haven't watched them quite as much the last maybe month as I should. But yeah, I don't know what the deal is with them, but they've been pretty disappointing. And I really thought they were kind of starting to make a name for themselves and creep back up the table. And now they're sitting in 14th. So we'll see. We'll see if they can turn things around.
Yeah.
Uh, that might be another manager who's on his way out. So we'll see.
No,
We'll see how they.
definitely. Um,
Uh,
so randomly that manager along with Leicester's have both been like the if there's a Premier League team that would have a coach that would possibly leave their team and go to Tottenham, it was Southampton's and Leicester's, which I doubt either of those would happen, but you never know. Just because I think the management at Tottenham really respects both of them. Uh, so the only other thing I kind of wanted to bring up on this game is that it was kind of a weird thing. Unfortunately, Tammy Abrahams hurt himself and was subbed out for Hudson Adoya, who's kind of been getting all the playing time over Christian Pulisic. Um, and Hudson Adoya was subbed on at halftime and was subbed off at the 75th minute after 30 minutes of play for pretty much what Thomas Tuchel said was a bad attitude and not the right mindset to play. Is what he kind of went into on the player, and I don't know, like I've never played at that high of a level to say that's Bush League, whatever. But I just know from any sort of sporting level, you don't start and you get brought on for an injury and then you instantly get taken off like 30 minutes in. Like, I mean, I thought it was kind of a shitty thing to do as a coach. Like, you don't do that. Like, it's not like I watched the whole game. I didn't think he was that bad. Like, he wasn't the reason why they weren't performing. Like, yeah, he had some bad plays, like some bad centers and some bad 1v1s, but it was nothing like different than what any of the other players were doing. So I don't know. Did you see that, Keeks? Do you have an idea of that?
I didn't notice that or read into it or anything. It,
So
tidbit though.
so it was enough that like major major outlets were talking about it and pretty much like, yeah, this could like derail his confidence, like do this and this. And then to go into my next game, which I'm going to talk about today's Champions League game, I watched Chelsea Atletico, or and that game he actually started, so he went right back to him, and he played really well. Like it was like him and Mason Mount. So Chelsea ended up winning 1-0. In my opinion, if no one knows, Atletico Madrid, uh, that was probably, I mean, they're one of the best La Liga teams, and if not the best right now. That was a huge win for Thomas Tuchel under Chelsea at Atletico Madrid too. So it was an away game. Um, Hudson Adoya played well. There was a lot of players who really stepped up, and I think Thomas Tuchel's kind of coming into form with who he sees playing, which is unfortunate because Christian Pulisic is not on that. Like that's a whole nother discussion we can have, but he is not he is not someone that is like even being looked at. Like he's barely making the bench right now, just out of skill level and whatnot. Like he's just not bringing it, which is very unfortunate. Um, but one person that ESPN FC, shout out to you guys stealing my joke the next day, Mason Mount, where I thought that like he was gonna hate Thomas Tuchel because like first Thomas Tuchel game or two, like he did not play at all, and I'm like, oh okay, so he's just a Frankie Four Finger Lampard guy, and that's all it is gonna be. But dude, Mason Mount has been balling out. Like he balled out today. He's been balling out the last couple games. We don't need to have a debate about this. This is more factual based on my opinion and everything else. He is right now England's number one, like over Madison, over Grealish. Like he is performing that high of a level. Like I said, we do not need to debate this. It is facts. What I'm saying is fictional. So yeah, they're like a machine right now. Like I expect Chelsea to be number two at the end of the year. Like I expect them to overtake I shouldn't say two or three. I expect them to be two or three. Like right now, I want to say they're six. So I expect them to overtake United. I expect them to be right there with Leicester. So it depends on with who's playing who with games in hand and whatnot. I haven't looked at the roster that or the schedule that far ahead. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so that whole thing happened. Something I will say as well, the starters for that game, besides Timo Werner, who's Timo Werner, he's not missing the goals because he's not taking all those shots like he was previously. And Mendy in goal. Besides those two, it was the exact same roster that was out there before Frankie Four Fingers Lampard got in there and like picked who he wanted. Like Ben Chilwell was on the bench, Ziyech was on the bench. Like there was a lot of guys on the bench. I forget the exact number, but I want to say their roster on the bench was over $400 million. Is how much Chelsea's overall bench was for this Champions League game. So it just goes to show that like Chelsea, two things. One, Chelsea has a good roster to the point where they don't have to play people. And then it also, I think the jury's still out on Frank Lampard's that good of a coach because evidently whatever Thomas Tuchel's doing is working because he has guys who barely scratched the surface with Frank Lampard, and these guys are contributing on a high level. Yeah, so it's like the system, everything in play. Like I think I never respected Thomas Tuchel when he was at Borussia Dortmund, especially at PSG, because I don't really care too much for PSG, at least when he was there. But I think what he is doing at Chelsea is very impressive. He's yet to lose, and like the schedule that he's been playing hasn't been a cakewalk by any means. Like it's not like he's like beating the opponents he should. Like he's just performing well. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, so that's about all I had for Thomas Tuchel. Two other small things. One person who got a yellow card was Simone, the coach of Atletico Madrid. And I was kind of watching this. Is there anyone besides probably Jurgen Klopp that is more demonstrative on the sideline? Can you think of anyone?
And when they played in the Champions League last season, that was a huge topic of conversation because they're both just fucking fiery, man. I mean, they're not like Simone's nuts, and both teams reflect that too. When they're firing, like both teams are heavy work rate
Yeah.
defensively, like all out when they attack, all out when they defend. Which again is a props to Tuchel. Like Atletico's no joke, man. Especially with Joao Felix kind of coming into his own. Like they picked up Suarez. That midfield's good. Like historically phenomenal defensive club.
For
Um,
for
that's a huge win. That's a huge
for,
win.
for the listeners that don't know this, Joao Felix, is the third highest paid player in professional football. Like next to Mbappe and Neymar,
Right.
I'm pretty sure. Maybe Messi, I can't think of, but I'm pretty sure he's number three on the list of I'm doing two fingers, but I'm at three. He is number three on the list, and like he is like the Portuguese prodigy to Ronaldo. It's kind of what they're expecting him to be. Um, and he's fluttered this game specifically. He played okay, but they kind of have him playing as a Harry Kane type striker where he is coming back from where they'll have the ball and he will come back to receive it instead of kind of getting played into. And I don't know. I mean, that's exactly what the coach wants them to do, because if no one knows, like Atletico Madrid, like they kind of have a Jose Mourinho style where they're very, very structured defensively, and
They
they are willing to like just kind of allow the game to kind of come to them and then hit them on the counter and use their skill up top. And the other person besides Felix is Luis Suarez. Like, dude's been a shithead his whole life. He actually shitheaded again. That was like my one. I had a little star next to it. Suarez shithouse alert. So against Rudiger, so Chelsea just took the lead. Phenomenal goal by Olivier Giroud. Love Olivier Giroud. Phenomenal goal. And he ended up, after that, he ended up grabbing like the thigh, like crotch area of Rudiger and like kind of wrestled and tussled with him. And they were down 1 goal and he knew exactly what he's doing. And Rudiger almost baited into it to the point where Rudiger had his hands in his face pretty much. I was like, holy shit, like, what are you doing? Like, Luis Suarez is just going to do this. Like, if nothing else, he might even bite your ear. You never know. And like, so it was a thing. And I was expecting a card to be given to Rudiger because his hand was up in his face, like, get out of my face, to Suarez. And yeah, it was just one of those things you're like, dude, like, why do you have to go there? But it's like, that's Luis Suarez. Like,
especially in the age of VAR, like they're gonna go back and look at that, and they're gonna look at like that's his whole shtick. Like he'll instigate and wait for somebody to retaliate, and then he'll flop on their retaliation. It's like you can't really do that anymore, man. Like there's cameras now; they're gonna look at that shit.
he did it a
But yeah,
ton. Granted, he does take a few chin shots. Like, I don't know how he gets hit in the face so much, but I mean, it was happening.
yeah.
So yeah, so that was Chelsea Atletico. That was an awesome Champions League game today. The other one I watched, which was a week ago today, or a week ago tomorrow, that was Sevilla Dortmund. Sevilla Dortmund was a 2-3 Dortmund win. Haaland had 2 goals and 1 assist. If anyone listened to the podcast last week, you would have known that Kylian Mbappe, in my opinion, the best player in the world currently, had a hat trick, and Erling Haaland went out and had 2 goals and an assist, and said that he watched that game with Mbappe and that he wanted to do the same thing. And it's, most people are gonna read that as like, there's multiple ways you can read that. I think Erling Haaland's like, hey, like, don't forget me. Like, I might be at a smaller German league, but I am the best player in the world.
He
Like, and
took
that's what and yeah, I took that personally, like that Jordan meme, like that's what he was doing. Um,
yeah. I
so
love it, man. It broadcasts a bright future for the state of the game. Like those two, God, I hope Holland doesn't go to Bayern. Like I would love to see those two end up in the Premier League or in the same league, or just at clubs that really help them like get to that elite level. Because we're talking potentially the next. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but there will be no next Neymar or no next Messi or Ronaldo, but this could be like the next version of it. Their own version of that head to head, that back and forth, that superstar rivalry.
the the best player in their division, or in their league, I should say, and then like they are the ones that you like pay hundreds to thousands of dollars to watch them play in the Champions League. Like, that is
Yeah,
Erling Haaland, that is Kylian Mbappe. And so that brings me to the point. Erling Haaland is looking like he might move this summer. He might transfer somewhere else. He's 20 years old. His agent, as of today, said that there is only 8 to 10 teams in the world that can afford him. We can speculate who those are, but he specifically said because Erling Haaland wants to come to the Premier League, and he said there's 4 teams in the Premier League that can afford him. I'm assuming if it was me, it would be United, it'd be City, it'd be Liverpool. I would probably say Arsenal, and then maybe Tottenham. Like those are the 4 right there, in my opinion. Like, Uh,
Yeah.
but he has links to both City and Liverpool. Those are like the two.
Those are the two teams that need a true number nine right now too. As Bobby's kind of fading out, City have kind of stuck Foden there as a band aid, but he feels more like an attacking mid or a winger. So yeah, I mean those are the two moves that make sense to me.
And Aguero's out. Like from City, he's out this year. Like he'll probably go to. I'm assuming he'll probably go to Spain or Italy. I don't know. He still has some. I think he
Yeah.
has something in the tank, but
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, class, as we said with Bale, class is permanent. He'll go play a striker role and just kind of be that float around up top like Zlatan does now that he's older. And if it weren't for Suarez going to Atletico, I would bet money on Aguero going back to Atletico. But with Suarez and Felix there, there's just not really a space for him. So I could see him going to like if Lazio didn't have Immobile, I could see him going to like a Lazio or like Atalanta or something like that,
yeah.
and just kind of fitting in and just poaching a fuck ton of goals for the next 2 3 years. Could definitely see him coming to the MLS too, but maybe after one or two
I was
more
gonna say
seasons.
probably 2 to 3. Yeah, was what I was thinking. Um, so the other two, I mean, like, if you could start a if you could start a team, would you rather have Haaland or would you rather have Mbappe? Because Mbappe's 22. I think he's going to stay at PSG, but there's also links to him being at Barcelona if they can find some money, because they're like evidently in debt over their heads right now. But like, which one would you rather have if you could have one or the other? I mean, they're completely different. At the end of the day, they're killers, like they're goal scorers, but they're completely different in their style and makeup.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it just depends on who you surround them with and the system and everything. I think Mbappe would be a better fit at Liverpool, and Holland would be a better fit at City. Like you said, they're both fucking assassins, man. They're gonna score goals no matter where you put them. I would love to have either of them. I do think, like, if you're looking at like as a Liverpool fan, if I'm looking at Liverpool. I want to see that trio of just sheer speed and goal scoring ability with Mane to his left and Salah to his right. Then again, I mean Holland might be a great mix in between them. You get a big guy in the middle who can use his head, who can be physical. That might be a super deadly combination. So I don't know. I mean, I think I'd be super happy with either of them. But I think ultimately Haaland would probably fit in better at City, Mbappe maybe more at Liverpool.
Yeah. I selfishly I hope they both come to the Premier League. And
Yeah,
selfishly, I kind of hope they both don't come to the Premier League, because they're not going to come to Tottenham. So I don't want them to come and like play against me. But at the same time, I want all the best talent to play in the Premier League, and so that's
for
kind of
sure.
where I'm at. Because all the like Tottenham Spurs rumors are that Harry Kane is 27, he's still in his prime, and he's being looked at by other places. And Tottenham, I don't know financially where they're at right now, but if they could get 85 to 90 million for Harry Kane, that's a good amount of money, like in my opinion. And I think that in most people's opinion, that's a good amount of money. And
I'd take it.
if City, it's looking like City is the Premier League team that would pay that for him. And then it's also looking like if Neymar or Mbappe leaves PSG, Mauricio Pochettino, the new PSG manager, loves Harry Kane and wants him, but he's like, we can't do it unless we can dump some salary, which would be a big dump
Yeah,
because one of those two players are, or both of those players are like the highest paid players in the world. PSG's purse is massive, so yeah, there's a lot going on. It's going to be a crazy summer. Like it's going to be amazing to watch that. And then not only to put that on it, but then you have all the international teams. And like the only thing that's kind of sad is Erling Haaland is he's Norwegian, isn't he? From Norway. And like they're not like a cream of a crop. Like he literally has to kind of be like Lewandowski, even to a bigger extent, because Lewandowski plays for Poland, and like he kind of pulls that country's team. Uh, but still, like Norway is just not nearly
Com-
as
Common theme though, in soccer, you've got your players like that are just these polarizing players, and I mean Zlatan, with Sweden, he never had a whole lot of help. I will say, and this is a good segue, we've got caught up a little bit on Holland and Mbappe after the Champions League talk, but I did want to talk the City Arsenal match a little bit, and Norway do have a really talented midfielder in Martin Odegaard, so that could be a nice duo. I haven't seen those two play together at the international level, but Odegaard's 22, Allen's 20. If you add one or two more weapons to that team, that Norwegian side, that's a potential, Euro team that could make a little run and surprise some people. They're not going to do serious damage. They're not going to end up in a final, but they could fuck around and knock a team out. Um,
yeah.
I do want to touch on City Arsenal just because this is a match where Arsenal last week played so well, and they've shown such like flashes of potential that I thought that this could be a little bit of a test for City if they didn't bring their game. But dude, like City is back to being City again. There's no more bullshit. Like this is Pep City firing on all cylinders. And they do so well at mixing up the pitch, and they do so well at Pep. For any listeners who maybe are just getting into the game or aren't super familiar with the game, Pep came up in Barcelona at kind of the peak of like Cruyff's system there, Johan Cruyff system there of playing total football and that 4-3-3 formation. And if a right back makes a run forward, then the center defensive mid has to cover for him. And no matter who does what, there has to be a player filling that role for them. And City do that so well, where Fernandinho might run up. He might be playing a center back, one week, and he might make a run forward, and Gundogan's dropping back for him. Kevin De Bruyne is dropping back for him. John Stones might make a run forward, and Fernandinho's dropping back for him. Um, you know, uh, Bernardo Silva was playing like in a number 9 last week, and he'll drop back into the midfield, and KDB will hop up there in a number 9. You never know where any of those players are going to be at on the pitch, and they can fill every single role seamlessly. Everything they do is seamless. There are no hiccups. There are no mistakes. Uh, like there is no glitch in their communication. Everything they do is perfectly seamless, perfectly timed, and perfectly disciplined. And it is total football. That's just Pep's masterpiece. That is the Pep effect, and it's just to see it frustrate a team like Arsenal, who's full of young talent but hasn't seen a system that perfect, was pretty amazing. Because Arsenal have put together a decent little team, and I shit on them a lot early in the season, and then Arteta gave the young guys a chance to play, and they've been balling out. And I really expected them to at least hang with City and give them a little bit of a game, and they really didn't. Around like the 35th minute, they had some chances where they were kicking the ball out to Tierney. Tierney was sending some crosses in, but it reminded me of early in the season when Arsenal played against Tottenham and they sent in some absurd amount, like 40 crosses or some outrageous shit.
To no
And
one.
Tottenham were already up. And so Jose just packed like 8 players in the box at all times, and they just sat there and headed the ball out. And it was like, all right, if you're getting 40 crosses in, like on paper, it's like, wow, that's amazing. That's an attacking masterclass. But if you're not doing anything with it, you got to get creative. You got to start playing more direct. You got to get some ones and twos going. And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know if that's a flaw in Arteta's system, or if that's just a lack of creativity or a lack of confidence with the younger guys, maybe, or inability to kind of like assess the situation in the heat of the battle. Um, but they kind of got locked in that zone where they're just sending crosses in. And fortunately, halftime came around and they could sort of reassess. But they just didn't have any answer for City, and it just comes down to Pep being a genius and Pep being brought up in that Cruyffian school of total football and just playing the game in like such a rigid way. But when you have the quality of players that they have, and the De Bruynes and the Zinchenko played really well. When you have those players who can add their own creativity to that perfect and rigid system, it's just so unbeatable. I mean, there's nothing you can do. Like, there's nothing you can do against that system. So
And
that game
with
stood out to me.
that system, I mean, if I remember right, Sterling, I remember reading Sterling scored in like the second minute.
Yeah,
Like, so they instantly had a lead. And I think it was off an assist by Gundogan, who's like on a tear right now. And then to make things even like, I don't know, even more confident for Chelsea or for City, Kevin De Bruyne came back from injury, and like KDB was like in the thick of things. I think he played 60 or 70 minutes, if I remember right. Um, so like it's like they're not only a well-oiled machine, but then they're like, oh yeah, and like here we are with like one of our best players. Like here he is, he's back at it. So
arguably
yeah, it was nuts.
there in the world. Yeah,
Uh, kind of tracking back to what you were talking about, Arsenal like doing all those centering balls and like just pretty much crossing to no one, having to go one on one with some creativity. Like something that I saw is that Willian has yet to score for that team. Like or is yet to score in like the last like X amount of matches. Like he has been non-existent recently. Um, and that's huge for them. Like they took him from Chelsea, expected something in return, and he has not provided any sort of class, skill. And like, I mean, I feel bad for him because he's a good talent. He's older, but like he's getting outran by all these younger guys like Sake and everyone else. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to expect with just like I kind of did at the start of the season. I think Everton's just kind of a wish-wash team this year, and it is what it is. Like they'll probably finish 8 or 9, and just kind of go with it. But they've been on a tear recently, and until you play City, I guess that's how it is.
yeah, yeah. Hold on, can you see me? My
Yeah, I
computer.
see you now. Yeah, you look good. You got the hat on?
My
Yeah.
Did my camera go off? It keeps showing that it's going off.
Yeah, it went off. Yeah. I thought you just wanted to buffer me or something.
But but yeah, Arsenal very wishy-washy, and it doesn't help catching a little bit of momentum and then running into City, especially when City are playing the way they are. Another game that I watched, just kind of saw bits and pieces of Crystal Palace, who beat Brighton 2-1. Um, yeah, maybe the goal of the week.
Whoa,
Gorgeous.
whoa, whoa! You taking my belter, bro? the
But just a really, really technical and good piece of play from 23-year-old Jean-Philippe Mateta, who couldn't possibly have a more French name. It was a ball in near post, and all in one movement, he spun his body to receive the ball while flicking it with his back heel towards the far post. A gorgeous goal. Um, Brighton come back tight in the set early in the second half, and then in the 94th minute, Christian Benteke of all people scores a worldie to tie, not to tie it, to give Palace the win.
it,
Uh, Cross into the far post naturally. Late in the game, there was plus 5 minutes, 94th minute. You just assume that they're aiming for his head. It carries a little bit further past the far post. He hits it out of the air off the volley, across his body, across the goal. And I mean, he hit it crisp, he hit it flush. Um, Really well driven into the bottom left corner. And 3 points Palace, despite having, get this, 25% possession. Brighton had 75% possession.
so stats on this game, I remember reading. Um, I watched portion of this game, but
I have it here. Walk us through it real quick.
not enough to vomit all of this. But that first goal you were just talking about, The announcer said, I wrote it down. The announcer wrote during this, he wrote, or I wrote, he said, a whole lot of class with some cheek. Is how with some cheekiness. Like it was, dude, and it was exactly that. It was like a Heinefeld heel, but it was like off the bottom of his foot, and he just like he like he pretty much put it in bed and then tucked it away. Like he like got it going. Like that was one of his children going into the goal. Like it was beautiful. That Benteke goal, I had as my second belter. I had that as my honorable mention. Right before that goal happened, the guy because Brighton was owning that game, and right before that, they're like, all the wheels will fall off if they give up a goal right now. And right as he did that, that guy crossed it in and Benteke just one time to a smoker. Like that thing was a belter and it just went right in. It was like, oh my God, you cursed them. So the stat I saw on this game is like, this is like soccer, football, it's to the T. So Crystal Palace had only 2 shots inside the 18-yard box. Only 2 shots inside the 18-yard box on goal, and they both went in. Brighton had like over 25 shots and only had 1 goal. Like, it is what it is. Like, dude, soccer is just a weird sport.
It is. It is.
Yeah, and
It's a
so,
strange.
but it was just like that kid. I forget who was it that scored the first goal.
Jean-Philippe Mateta,
Yeah, cheek and class.
23-year-old.
Like
Yes.
first Premier League goal. I thought the announcer said, if I remember right. Yeah, it was awesome. Like,
What a way.
yeah,
Yeah.
it
What a
was
way.
that was a great.
Quite a way to introduce yourself. Yeah, that's all I had Premier League. Let's get going on to Serie A. We're right around an hour now, so we've been rambling a bit. We don't have Jack here to bring us back to earth this week, so uh, AC Milan versus Inter, huge week for Serie A. AC Milan versus Inter, battle 1 versus 2. Inter was up by a point going into this match. Um, AC Milan came out attacking pretty strong, a lot of crosses in to Zlatan, and even they had Romagnoli, the center back, playing all the way up to kind of get ahead on some of those balls. Zlatan immediately whipped 2 headers on. Handanovic made 2 incredible saves in a row, and within that minute, about probably 45 seconds later, ball popped out to my boy Sandro Tonali, who put a really nice shot on goal, and Handanovic made another incredible save, diving up to his left. And then, within the next 10 minutes or so, AC Milan have a couple more chances. Inter trying to play it out of the back, kind of get caught out, uh, but the ball deflects off Tonali for a goal kick. So Inter played out of the back again. AC Milan are pressing tight, and Inter played out of the back perfectly. Literally, I mean, hand textbook how to play it out of the back when a team starts pressing you and to take advantage of it. Played 2 passes out to the right, 1 ball forward to Barella, who kind of floats one, flicks it back to Hakimi. Hakimi sort of takes a knock but keeps going. They play the advantage. Centers the ball into Eriksson. Eriksson plays 1 more ball wide to Perisic, who's at about the 6-yard line. Could probably take a shot on and score. Just slides a ball into Martinez, who scores a easy tap in, gorgeous counter, execute exactly what they intended to do with it. Even the commentators were like, "Oh, they're going to play it out of the back again, try and catch Milan, AC Milan pressing," and they just took full advantage of it. Milan bid on it. Um, and I said they came out attacking. That this was in the second half. Lautaro Martinez scored a goal in the first half. This was his second, put him up 2-0. Third goal, just a long pass forward, and Lukaku doing what Lukaku does. He has the strength to receive the ball with space, get players off of him, and then he also has the speed to. I mean, he just straight up beat Romagnoli in a foot race, and Romagnoli's a very good center back, one of the better center backs in Serie A. Takes a couple big touches to get it on his left, little bit of separation. That's all he needs. He just banged one in right outside the 18, just a bullet into the bottom left corner. Donnarumma had no chance, and it kind of summed it up. Inter, when they've met face to face, Inter have dominated AC Milan this season, and it kind of brings it into perspective. AC Milan have had a great year, but nobody really expected them to be where they are right now. Uh, you look at their roster; they've played well. They've got a great goalkeeper, a decent defense, and they've got some young talent in their midfield, coupled with Zlatan up top and a couple other little weapons. But when you look at their roster compared to Juve or compared to an Inter, they're not up there with them. So I think it's a huge tip of the cap to AC Milan to be where they're at right now. But I think the class is starting to shine through as Inter sort of separate themselves, and this match was like a really good, smack in the face for everybody watching to be like, all right, yeah, Inter's the real deal. AC Milan have done well to kind of hang around, but you just sense that Inter are starting to pull away. So
Yeah. Was there any juice between Zlatan and Lukaku like there
yeah,
was in the last game?
Lukaku scored his goal, ran to the corner flag. Everybody's hugging him, and he yelled something. I forget what he yelled in Italian, but he said something like, "It's me, I'm here." Like I'm the one, something like that. And he yelled it at Zlatan, and the camera actually panned to Zlatan, and he's like, waiting for the kickoff, and he's like clapping, and it's like, damn, is he like showing respect, which is very un-Zlatan like, or is he clapping like, all right, let's go, like trying to get his team back on track? Uh, I assume it was probably to try and get his team on back on track. I assume
Yeah.
he was.
Yeah. He doesn't respect anyone.
Yeah, yeah. Um, But yeah, there was a little bit of that. Nothing, no like in your face bullshit. Like yeah, like Coppa Italia. So
Yeah.
uh,
So with you talking with AC Milan, just not having the classes in Milan, like because I kind of put AC Milan in the same group as like a Napoli, maybe not a Napoli. Napoli has some pretty good players, but kind of in the group of Napoli or like a Roma. Like, is there is there a reason for that drop in gap from Inter and Juventus, or is it just the money at that?
well, I mean, AC Milan have historically been a super successful club, and kind of neck and neck with Juve for obviously Juve's Juve, but they're like the next highest up in Italian football historically. But they have gone through a few rough years, and they're kind of in that stage where they're building back up to being that like international presence. They've been out of Champions League for a couple seasons. They should, assuming they see out the rest of the season, they should end up in a Champions League spot for next year. So I think it's just been a matter of a couple rough seasons. Um, as far as roster wise, they've they kind of had their sort of their prime in the mid 2000s, and I think it was kind of offloading and onloading, and onloading maybe incorrectly or with some players that didn't last that long, and now it's sort of rebuilding again. They kind of went through that cycle. So I mean they're getting back there, and saying that they're not on the level of Inter or Juve, like I don't mean that as a super bold statement, like they aren't good because they are a very good team. It's just I think Inter and Juve really have that separation where they can be considered elite. Still don't think that they will. I don't think either of those teams are up there with the Bayerns and the cities, but they're kind of there as well. And Inter have put together. I mean, they've put together a phenomenal team. Like Lukaku and Martinez up front are insane. Hakimi is a crazy good weapon on the outside. They pick up guys like Nico Barella in midfield's super, super good. He's had a phenomenal year. And then you got guys like Ericsson and Vidal who are like their like midfielders. They might be on the team sheet. They might be in the starting lineup. Like if Christian Eriksen is a meh player in your lineup, pretty fucking good. Perisic they picked up. Um, I mean they've just put together a really good team over the last 2 years, 3 years, and they've used those weapons really well. And you got Conte coaching them. Um, Andanovic is getting older, but he's proven, just with that match, he's proven that he's still got a ton left in the tank. They're just a really good team, and I think they've separated themselves a little bit from AC Milan, and that's nothing against AC. I think they'll pick up one or two more players, and they've got those young guys. Tonali, who I speak so highly of, is only 20. Um, he just made the move from Brescia, who was Serie B, and then last year they came up to Serie A. He's only got 1 year Serie A experience. Frank Kessié is another young Ivorian guy. Um, like their midfield's young and pretty inexperienced, so they'll pick up another weapon or two. They've got a couple good strikers that are young, so it's a mix of young talent and maybe needing one or two other weapons, and they'll be pretty good in 1 or 2 more years. I mean, as if they aren't already, they're second in Serie A right now, ahead of Juve. So
So
yeah,
I guess we're if you I mean it's like the Premier League, you can't really say this, but like both Milans are doing really well. Then you have Juventus, Roma. Uh
yep.
but where do you expect them? Because like today Lazio is in the Champions League final 16 and they got routed, by Bayern Munich, like completely destroyed. Um so like and I don't even know. I forget where they're at. I want to say I'm going to pull it up real quick. They are number 6 in the table right now, with ahead of Sassuolo, Jack's sexy team of hipsters, and ahead of Napoli. But then they're behind Atalanta, Roma, Juventus, AC, and Inter Milan. And then if I remember right, Inter Milan, or no, excuse me, AC Milan and Roma are playing tomorrow or the next day in the Europa League. Like, I guess, how do you see this all shaking up? Do you kind of expect it
I
to score like it is, or do you expect Napoli or Atalanta to go on a run?
So Napoli is a club that I've just, for some reason, have always really liked, and I've always really expected them to kind of put the pieces together. And they seem to have injury issues, and this year COVID issues and other issues. But they've got a really good roster on paper. They're a good team. I mean, they're 13-1-8, which isn't bad. Like that's kind of where the drop off goes from Napoli to Sassuolo. They're like Napoli's 13-1-8, Sassuolo's 9-8-6. Like that's a pretty big difference. It's only a 5 point difference, but you look at wins to losses to draws. It kind of tells a little bit there. But yeah, again, it's a weird season, and just soccer in general is just so fucking weird where it's so wishy-washy right now, and teams go on these spells where they play well and then they play terrible. So you never really know, especially this year. But I see Inter Milan staying up top. I think last week was a huge win for them momentum wise. Um, I just don't see anyone catching them. Famous last words. I could be wrong, but I think that's a huge win for them, and it'll be interesting to see how AC Milan come back because they're only 4 points behind them, but they could take that loss on the chin and sort of go in a downward spiral because they lost their match before that too. So they're on a 2 game losing streak, whereas Inter's on a 4 game win streak. Before that, they drew one. Juve is sitting at 45 points, so they're 8 points behind Inter. However, they do have a match in hand. I'm not sure who they play next, but that is obviously a big factor. So I don't know. I mean, I have no answer really. It'll be interesting to see, but I see top four. I can see Inter holding their spot. I can see Juve surpassing AC Milan, and then it'll be a matter of AC Milan, Roma, Atalanta, and Lazio battling for third and fourth and fifth. And you could even throw Napoli in there, who's 3 points behind Lazio and Atalanta. But I
So
don't know. Napoli has been inconsistent, so I could see it coming down to that number 4 spot, Atalanta and Roma.
So I just clicked it, and Napoli looks like they over the next 5 games only plays one team ahead of them. So so that's some room to grow some points on that. With what's funny is like with Roma specifically, I was thinking like Totti and Rossi, like some of their previous guys, and I'm like, oh, they're a legit great team. They have one of the most beautiful jerseys in all of soccer. Like I love their
Do.
jersey. Um,
I have a jersey in the closet
but
here.
I just don't know much about them anymore. And the funny thing is it's the same thing with Atalanta, and like they're playing in the Champions League tomorrow. Like, and I don't know anything about that team, and they're like what number 5 right now. It's just Serie A is just a crazy thing, man. They have so many good teams that, in my opinion, they are the second best league to Premier League. It's Premier League, Serie A, then probably Spain and Germany equal to each other, and then France. You know, because France is pretty much PSG and a few other teams that might be good if they want to be. Um, sorry, sorry to Leo and everyone else. Like it is what it is. Um, but yeah, I've really grown to like Serie A this year, and it goes back to what you and Jack were talking about 2 months ago. It's that ESPN Plus is like marketing it, and it's good. Like there's good players. Like
Yeah.
they have guys who you might not necessarily know because some of them are Eastern European, most of them are Italian, but they have like legit good players, and it's kind of more offensive than the Premier League, not as big and as bushy tackly, I guess is a good way to say it. Like kind of like what Jack says, it's a farmers league. Like it's not like that. Like it's very technical and very sexy and smooth looking, and that it's easy on the eyes to watch Serie A games, even if it's not the top 5 teams you're watching. It's still nice to watch. Yeah. So
Yeah, and
I don't.
it's been interesting too, because historically Serie A is a pretty defensive league, and the Italian style of playing is pretty defensive, but it's really gotten more offensive over the past few years. Roma's a pretty, attack heavy team. At Juve obviously is an attack heavy team when you got guys like Murata and Ronaldo and Chiesa. And then Atalanta, man, like Atalanta is just so wishy-washy is the problem, but they can score goals like by the boatload. You mentioned Eastern European players. There are a ton of Eastern European players in Serie A, and historically there have been, and just like a Josip Ilicic from Atalanta is a really good example of a player that if you don't watch Serie A, you'll see him in passing in the Champions League, and you'll be like, "Damn, some dude from Atalanta balled out today." And then you'll go back to watching the Premier League, and you won't hear his name again for another month when he balls out in the Premier League again. But if you watch Serie A each week, you realize this dude is the talisman and the soul of the offense that's putting up like 4 goals a match, which is Atalanta. Like they score like crazy, and they only score like crazy when he's on the pitch because everything runs through him. And they've got good strikers with Muriel and Zapata up front. Uh, my boy Papu Gomez was a creative mid for them, but he's moved on to Sevilla. But yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of hidden gems in Serie A that make the league so much fun to watch. And yeah, you're going to see some good goals. You're going to see some good technique. It's just a fun league. It's been super fun. Shout out to ESPN Plus. You know, most of you probably haven't heard of them, but they're a little like sports outlet. Not quite on our level yet, but yeah, ESPN Plus. You should check them out. Um, but yeah, Serie A has been a blast. I've just got a couple more notes.
Well,
Uh,
yeah. Just to kind of follow up with that real quick. I mean, fuck it. Let's root for them tomorrow then, because Atalanta plays Real Madrid in the Champions League. So let's root for them to take it home.
yeah,
Like, I mean, I don't give a shit about Real Madrid. Like Sergio Ramos, like, who cares about that? You know, let's keep this at
right,
Atlanta
right.
going. We're an official
Yeah,
Atlanta
yeah, and
podcast.
they made a decent little run last year. They made some noise. They're a fun team to watch. Uh, but again, they're wishy washy. They can be a blast to watch one day and a nightmare to watch the next. So we'll see. Like I said, if Ilicic is um, in form and healthy makes a huge difference for them. Um, but yeah, also watched Juve versus Crotone. Juve won 3-0. Ronaldo being Ronaldo, and Juve doing a good job just getting him the ball. Scored an easy header early off a great ball in from Alexandro, and then his second goal. Just Ronaldo being Ronaldo, man. Just Terminator mentality. I'm gonna score goals no matter what. Ripped one from distance. Keeper bats it away to the right, straight down the touch line to I think it was Aaron Ramsey. Ronaldo sees it as soon as the keeper bats it away. He sees it's going towards his teammate, and he just beelines toward like the 6 yard line. Um, Ramsey sends one in, and just everyone else is frozen, and he's all business, and he's already headed in his second goal, and it's just like his instinct is second to none. He's just got a nose for goal, like he defines that phrase. Um, yeah, I mean, you kind of got to see the goal to really get the picture of it. It's like the keeper bats the ball away, everyone freezes, like, all right, it's out of the box. And he's like, no, like you guys can stay asleep if you want. I'm gonna go 1,000 miles per hour towards the fucking 6 yard box, and I'm gonna head a goal in while you all stand there and look around. And it just kind of epitomizes his attitude and who he is as a player.
He looks like a
Third
robot
goal,
when he does that.
yeah, he
He
does.
legit does. Like it's
Um,
mechanical. Like,
yeah, it's insane. It's
and
insane.
that's training. Like that is literally practice,
Yeah.
nonstop. So
And then Weston McKinney picked up a nice little goal for their third. Corner headed in by Delict, got deflected kind of like right to his chest, but it was in a tight space. And he did pretty well to play it down to his foot and just hit it off the volley. And he just fucking ripped it into the goal. Really confident finish, just like one of those I don't give a fuck kind of finishes. Like I played it down, and I'm just gonna have a go and see what happens. And he's been really good for them. You can see that in his play. You can see that he's confident. You can see that he's having fun. Like after he scores, he's doing these little like Harry Potter like spell celebrations, and like he just looks confident and like
we
he's enjoying himself.
that
And
that's a Patronus charm, bro.
yeah, yeah.
Patronus charm. Okay.
What shape do you think his Patronus takes?
Uh, I mean, he's from Texas.
I could see it being a bull.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, it's definitely not a buck. So yeah, probably a bull. Yeah.
All right.
Mm.
Yeah, but
Uh,
no, he
you
just
know,
he's fitting in. Fun to
two
watch.
quick things about him. One with Pulisic not being like Chelsea's whatever. He is USA's number one right now. Like he is the number one player on the USA roster, in my opinion. Which my opinion is usually absolute. Two, it has to be pretty fucking confident to know that you balled out and you were one of the best players on the pitch, and then to get on the bus and look at all your fucking teammates and be like, "Yep, I'm as good as you. I'm as good as you as I'm as good as you, and you are like all top 50 to 100 players in the world." Like, it's awesome. It's got to be like it's got to be good to know like he's doing what he's doing, where he's doing it. Like Juventus is like a cream of the crop team. Like, yeah, it's awesome. Like I'm
Yeah,
so happy for him. I'm so happy for USA. I love America. Let's go. Brendan's got
yeah,
that.
man. I mean, typically he's been a more of a defensive midfielder. I know he's got forward and played more of an attacking role, but like with him being sort of an all around mid, he's learning from one of the best midfielders of all time and his manager Andre Pirlo. He's learning the attacking game from arguably the greatest goal scorer of all time and Cristiano Ronaldo, and he's learning the defensive side of the game from Leonardo Bonucci and why can't I think of his name? Legend back there, Chiellini, Giorgio Chiellini. Um, like he's learning every part of the game from people who are some of the greatest to ever do it in their positions, which is incredible. Like it's amazing the position that he's in right now. Um, just as a young player and as a young American,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable. Um, but yeah, we kind of ran through the Serie A, top four predictions. I wanted to touch on as well the top goal scorer, the capocannoniere for Serie A. Lukaku is leading the league right now with 17 goals. Ronaldo's right behind him, scored his 15th and 16th against uh, Crotone. Sorry. And then with 14, you've got Zlatan, Luis Muriel, and Ciro Immobile. And sometimes I get kind of tired of all this Zlatan love. Like people just obsess over him, and he's amazing. I get it.
He's a tabloid.
Yeah, he's a tabloid. But I do want to put into perspective. Lukaku's played 22 matches and he's got 17 goals. Immobile and Muriel have played 21, and they're tied with Zlatan for 14 goals. Ronaldo's played 19 and he's got 16. Zlatan has only played 13 games and he's got 14 goals.
That so that's impressive. And then what do you have ages by chance?
Yeah, so pretty impressive for somebody who is pushing 40 years old. To be fair, Immobile is getting up there in age. Ronaldo's getting up there in age. Um, Luis Muriel. Let me look it up real quick.
I mean, Zlatan's the kind of guy that will say, "I don't just want to play with my kids; I want to play with my grandkids." Like something like that. It's some dumb shit he would say.
Did you just make that up, or did he say that?
No, I made that up. Yeah, but it
Uh,
makes sense. Like, I mean, dude, he's like he's like COVID challenged me. Like, hey, Bay.
my dog just woke up. Yeah, that is a quote that he would say, and I'm really impressed that you just made that up off the top. But yeah, Muriel's only 29. I was thinking he was a little bit older. Um, Lukaku's 27, but yeah, pretty impressive for a guy who's pushing 40 years old to have played 13 matches, got COVID, came back, and has scored 14 goals, and
Yeah.
good goals too. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got Serie A wise. We'll wrap up here.
Before we wrap up to the booze, cheers, and belters, 27-year-olds, who would you rather have, Lukaku or Kane?
Depends what I'm surrounding them with. Two extremely
Yeah,
different
that's a
players.
cop out. That's a cop
That
out.
is a cop out. I'll go. I'll go. Oh, I want to say Lukaku, but I got to go with Kane because I think Kane's an all around better player. I
Yeah,
think he brings more.
I would go Kane. Just because Lukaku, I think, is in the perfect situation currently, but you saw him at United and you've seen him at other teams previously, and he was not that.
Yeah,
Granted, you could say the same thing about Kane because he's only ever played for Tottenham. So,
but he's played for Tottenham when they're shit, and he's played for Tottenham when they're good,
yeah,
and he's
true.
balled out
All
regardless. So,
balled out. Yeah,
yeah,
cool.
yeah, good question. Good question.
So, what booze and cheers do you have? Do you have any?
So I've got a boo this week, and it is for Lazio, who Jack shit on last week because they've had ties to
That
with
was
their
me.
support. Oh, you did. They've had ties with their supporter groups to like uber far right groups, which obviously is not a great look. Um, and I'm gonna boo them because they've been making headlines recently because apparently there's some suspicion and possibly some evidence. We'll see over the coming weeks that um, they didn't disclose some of their COVID cases, and they were just like letting people play and practice and shit like that. Yeah.
Long hair don't care.
Despite what what'd you say?
That long hair don't care. Like who the fuck cares? Like everyone's got it in Italy. Like Italy was like ground zero pretty much for COVID. That's
Which
fucked
is
up.
why they don't want to go back to that. Yeah. So yeah,
So
this season, I guess there were just some moments earlier in the season where, yeah, they're just being investigated right now for possibly knowing that players had COVID and letting them practice and or play anyway. And they could be facing relegation to Serie B actually, if it's
because of
found to
it,
be true. Yeah,
well,
yeah,
dude, a big middle finger fuck you to them because like there's teams in Germany who aren't even able to play at home in the big league games because of this. Jurgen Klopp can't go home to bury his own freaking mother because of this. Like there's a ton of people suffering from this, and for them to not only hide it, but for them to allow the spread of it, that's the worst part. Is that they're allowing it to
yeah.
just keep going. Like, yeah, they're former or they're not former, they're very high end athletes, but still, like, it doesn't matter. Like, you can just give it to anyone. It's a virus at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's shitty,
Yeah.
super shitty.
Alta end up in like sixth, seventh, or eighth place in Serie A and get your ass beat in Champions League.
Yeah, pretty much. Don't know if you saw 3 goals. Defender gave it up. The first one to Lewandowski, and then the fourth goal for Bayern was actually an own goal by a Lazio defender. So that was
Good.
they end up
Yeah.
getting a fourth. They end up getting the goal back. So I think it was 4-1 is how it ended. But yeah, trash ass team.
Yeah.
I hate them. I have a cheers and a booze. My booze is for Jordan Morris. Tore his ACL. At least that's what it looks like. He's going to get a second opinion on if it's more than that. But it looks like he tore ligaments in his knee. And so his time at Swansea is done. And he might miss the entire MLS season with Seattle Sounders as well. It's that bad of a knee injury. So that's my
And
boo.
you're gonna boo.
No, that's my boo. Like, dude, it's like sucks. Like, I wanted him to stay at Swansea. Like, it's just a shitty, like, I'm not a huge Jordan Morris
I,
fan, but I don't really care one way or the
I,
other.
I, I understand you're booing the situation. It sounded like you were booing him. Like,
No,
why the
dude.
fuck?
I'm booing the fact that he fucking tore his ACL. It's shitty news. Like, fuck. Like, why did that have to happen? So that's my
Shit.
boo. My cheers is right on point with my wife and I. Human Son celebrated. His usual celebration is a take a picture. But his last celebration, him and Gareth Bale did W's. Or actually, he did that, but Gareth Bale, I think, did that for like a W. Um, and it was Human Son did a Make a Wish with a kid that has pediatric cancer. And this patient asked if he would do a celebration for him. And Human Son says, "What do you want?" And he said, "Will you do a W because I want to win against cancer?" So that is my cheers of the day. And yeah,
Hey,
there we go. Yeah, and
gonna make
so
me
so he
there.
did that. A few days later, he actually scored, and he did it against Wolfsburger in the Europa League last. So,
That's
so yeah,
dope.
super
That's
dope.
dope. What about your belter of the week?
Belter, my runner-up was that Benteke volley you talked about earlier, but my Belter of the week, number one, was from today. Olivier Giroud, love that Frenchman, had a bicycle kick, called offside, reviewed it, not offside, took it in stride. So it was called offside, but it wasn't. Um, the defender from Atletico touched it, and he ended up taking it, and he just rocketed a bicycle kick into the goalie's lower right. So lower 90. Awesome. Yeah, it was a good goal. Perfect technical ability. And yeah, Olivier Giroud, dude, like he's become in all European competition with Chelsea. He's like the number 3 leading goal scorer for Chelsea, and he's barely been on that team. Like I remember him being on Arsenal forever, and I hated him because he played for Arsenal. But I really like Olivier Giroud. And I wish he'd leave Chelsea and play somewhere that like I would respect him more because I don't like Chelsea. But it is what it is.
Yeah, man's had a great comeback. I think he'll go somewhere. I think he'll make an Aguero like move. Could see him coming to
I hope
MLS.
so.
Could see him going back to France. So
Yeah.
uh, my belter of the week was Marcel Sabitzer from RB Leipzig. Struggling to remember who they played against, actually. This goal was on Saturday and received the ball a little bit inside of midfield. Took a couple touches, had some space, and just decided to take a blast. And the ball actually took a little bit of a, a bump off the turf, and it just so happened to pop up perfectly for him, where he kind of caught the outside of the ball, and it sliced in and down into the top right corner. And it was a beauty, and it was from deep, from probably 35 yards out.
Yes.
Hit it well, not a screamer, but hit it hard, hit it well, and it had just the perfect dip and break on it.
Precision. I think that
Right.
was against Jack's Hertha Berlin. Where they
It
they
may.
routed them.
I'm struggling to remember. I
Yeah, I
only
saw
watched a few minutes of the match, and then some highlights. So, but yeah,
future Tottenham Hotspur that one, by the way.
is
I
he?
got a feeling in my heart and my soul it's coming up.
I can
Sabitzer.
see Hoiberg holding down the midfield. I'd love to see Sabitzer in the Premier League. I'd love to see him in Serie A as well. Actually,
Yeah.
player.
So the only other news I have, one goal on the weekend, 2 goals today. Right here, Timo Pukki, 3 goals in the last 2 games. I don't have any more beer. Bonk. Well, we
Yeah,
slid through
cheers.
this one. I'm, I feel kind of bad saying this before we're about ready to sign off for the day. That it was a good pod to not have Jack on, because can you imagine the outlandish bullshit he would be talking about with that Everton win? Like, oh my god, it would have been awful.
Jack, don't listen. He would have kept us from running so long, though. We're at about an hour and a half, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up. But Dobes, it's always a pleasure. Beat thank you for being the sound man on the ones and twos, and we'll see y'all next week with Jack.
Subscribe, everyone. Subscribe.
Peace.